Senator Leyonhjelm.
Thank you, Mr Acting Deputy President. My support for same-sex marriage applies regardless of who introduces the bill that achieves it. But I want to comment on the different approaches to it that are currently before the Parliament. The bills introduced by Labor and the Greens are very similar. They would make marriage a union between two people rather than a union between a man and a woman, and they would retain the current ability of certain people to exercise freedom of conscience by choosing not to solemnise same-sex marriages. I agree with these aspects, and they are included in my Freedom to Marry bill. But we should be clear about who would be allowed to exercise freedom of conscience under the bills of Labor and the Greens. Their bills will simply retain the existing provision, which says you must be an authorised celebrant, being a minister of religion. This does not include all ministers of religion. A minister of religion may be a chaplain in the Defence Force, authorised under the Marriage Act to solemnise marriages in an overseas country involving a member of the Defence Force. Under Labor and the Greens' approach, such ministers of religion would not have freedom of conscience with respect to solemnising a marriage between a same-sex couple. My Freedom to Marry bill specifically addresses the issue of chaplains in the Defence Force, including chaplains who are ministers of religion. My bill extends freedom of conscience to chaplains via the following words. If a chaplain refuses to solemnise a marriage because the marriage is not the marriage of a man and a woman, the chaplain must, if possible, substitute another chaplain who is willing to solemnise the marriage. This approach would ensure that no minister of religion who is authorised to solemnise marriages under the Marriage Act would be required to solemnise a same-sex marriage. The Marriage Act currently authorises a range of groups to solemnise marriages. The category of authorised celebrants includes ministers of religion, certain state and territory public servants, and married celebrants. The Greens and Labor bills will leave this unchanged, so celebrants who are state or territory public servants will be required to solemnise same-sex marriages. This is good because the state should not discriminate. My bill has the same requirement. However, the third category of authorised celebrants comprises civil celebrants. The Greens and Labor bills will require civil celebrants to solemnise same-sex marriages. This is bad. My bill allows civil celebrants to exercise freedom of conscience by choosing not to solemnise same-sex marriages. I realise that the number of civil celebrants opposed to marriage equality is likely to be small. However, I think it is wrong to pretend that religious people are the only ones with claims of conscience. I realise it is natural for many people to limit claims of conscience because they oppose discrimination. But I would note that discrimination between individuals has far fewer implications for liberty than discrimination by the state. And discrimination is not the only lens through which to view this issue. Allowing claims of conscience can just as readily be viewed as freedom from state interference. When I entered this debate, marriage equality in Australia had reached a political and religious impasse for many members of the Coalition and for some members of Labor. My approach has been to bring around those members by appealing to their interest in reducing state interference in personal choices. I believe that we need to continue with this approach. After all, is it so very difficult to ask the state to leave people alone, to let them make up their own minds?
Thank you very much, Senator Leyonhjelm.